Sure. So hi everyone. My name is Alex Denning. I run a marketing agency called Ellipsis. We're a marketing agency for WordPress businesses. We work mainly with WordPress product businesses. So like all our clients make WordPress plugins, products, hosting, whatever. I have been involved in WordPress since like 2007 or so. I was freelancing and then been running Ellipsis for the last 5 years or so. I write a newsletter which you might like. People say it's good. It's called Master WP. It's at masterwp.co. And some people who read it and tell me about it tell me it's their favorite newsletter. So yeah, check that out. GoDaddy happens to be the sponsor for the next 6 months, which is very kind.
Oops.
Let's hope GoDaddy isn't his ISP as well.
What happened to?
Don't know. He dropped off, I assume.
Well, okay. Maybe I was too scary. So
It's some kind of fucking connection. It's happening right now. It's happening all the time. It's all over the place.
No, but can you imagine 30 million people were left today for 5 hours without electricity in Bombay? Hello.
Yeah.
Seriously. I hope.
He's back.
Sorry, Zoom crashed. Terrible timing.
No issue at all. So it's fine. I mean, I'm so happy actually that we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, especially with nowadays all the businesses are moving digital. So not all of these people had enough time to prepare their thoughts and businesses for a different type of thinking and acting at the same time. So Alex and I actually discussed about talking about how to improve those business marketing communications. And then we agreed to have this meetup, and we also did some investigation as well. And what I'm sharing with you now is the LinkedIn poll on what type of marketing channels, not necessarily WordPress agencies, but digital agencies in general, prefer to use. So we had SEO, and as you can see, it's like very pie cutting way. So you have 28% for SEO, 28% for referrals, 28% for content marketing, and 17% paid ads. But there is one comment that stood out, which said that referrals with double R. So this is something we will go back throughout our story. But before that, I wanted to ask you, Alex, could you tell us if this content of the know-how that you will present today, is this applicable to any digital business, or it's only WordPress related business?
So I'm going to talk about my favorite topic, which is marketing channels. And we're going to start with the philosophy and then dive into the details. What is great about the philosophy is that it works with pretty much any type of digital business. So we're going to focus in on some WordPress specific stuff because that's my area of expertise. But if you wanted to, you could apply it to all sorts of scenarios.
Awesome. Awesome. That's really great. Well, without further ado, I would really appreciate if you could start the lecture, as
sure.
You have questions and answers in the end, or you might want to read them put them in the chat. So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy.
Thanks. So before we get started, I can tailor this content to like what would be most useful to everyone. So do you want to like let me know what you do, or how you think this might be useful, that kind of thing? then I can try and answer some of those questions as we go. Can I open the chat whilst having this open? Maybe I can't.
Sure.
Perhaps Maya, you could like let me know what the question, what the chat says, because I don't seem to be able to open it. What do people work at? WordPress agencies, WordPress businesses, run them, freelance, something else? Where are we at? What would be useful?
Ask that question again, Alex.
What do people do?
I work in a company, an outsourcing company called Codable. We have agencies on the that basically has a load of agencies and freelancers on the platform, for example.
Great. Have we got any other people willing to unmute themselves?
Okay, I suppose all are just shy. I'm a freelancer. I'm a developer.
Okay. Great.
In marketing WordPress team also.
Great. What type of, sorry, if you don't mind, what type of clients do you work with?
Me or people in?
Yeah, sure.
In general.
You.
I'm working in with small businesses, big, not the big companies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anyone want to tell me anything else or different? If no, that's also fine.
I assume that each time they're very different, and some people they actually don't know what it needs to be done.
Okay.
But sometimes it's quite opposite when they exactly knew what they want, and you think that it's completely rubbish, and you just don't want to do it.
Sounds like a classic client problem. Okay. Any other responses, or I will get started. I will get started. Cool. All right. So I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes or so about marketing channels and how to think about marketing your WordPress business. This is me. Great use of social proof here. Here's me doing a WordCamp talk. As mentioned, I run Ellipsis. We're at getellipsis.com. We're a marketing agency. So let's set the scene. What's the before and after? Always useful to talk about outcomes, marketing stuff. So here's the scene. Before you start doing this stuff, everything is terrible and on fire, very bad. Not really sure where clients or customers come from. Stuff is ad hoc. Afterwards, everything is great. Effectively focus on what works, ignore what doesn't. Got a clear plan. Here are some great illustrations of that. Beforehand, very bad. Afterwards, very good. We're going to get to the promised land of very good within the next 15 minutes. Ideal. We're going to talk about three things. So what on earth are marketing channels? Why is that relevant? What does that mean for you? How do you pick the right ones, and how do you use this in practice? So I want to spend a relatively small time talking about the high level stuff and get into the details as quickly as possible. A lot of marketing talks are just not very easy to implement. Aim is for this to be easy to implement and very practical. That said, we do need to talk about some of the high level stuff to make the rest of it work. I will also leave some time for questions at the end. I think one of the most useful ways that we can talk about 2 and 3 is to answer questions. So if you want to interrupt me, feel free. Otherwise, we will awkwardly wait for everyone to unmute themselves at the end to ask questions. And we can do that separately. Either is good with me. So what I love about this philosophy of marketing is that number one, it works, and number two, it's pretty simple. A marketing channel is just a category of marketing activities. You could probably think of 24 fairly quickly. Probably half of those would be very general stuff like, TV ads. Other stuff is going to be more industry or niche specific. So, your influencer Instagram ads probably wouldn't make sense if you were selling WordPress development services. They might make sense if you were selling like clothes. So, in the WordPress services space, there are some which are more prevalent than others, and Maya's poll on LinkedIn uncovered some of those. So content very popular, paid ads very popular, not necessarily search, also possibly other social. We also had SEO in there. There was another one, I forget. Oh, referrals. Referrals is a big one for agencies. And you could list out a bunch of these. So what the implications of that is that you want to have as few of these as possible. So the marketing channel forces you to focus. It forces you to test and find out what works. And it forces you to focus on what works and abandon everything else. So you want as few of these as possible. And this has some really good benefits. Let's talk about what that looks like. So if you are, say you're working with like 5-10 clients a month, you will be doing some marketing activities, presumably. People who say like, we don't do marketing are, in my opinion, often lying. Like that in itself is a positioning statement. So I guess we're making some assumptions here. One is that you have great positioning already, or product market fit, whatever you want to call that. Good product market fit is going to act as like a force multiplier on any of these marketing activities you do. That's just a prerequisite, I guess, disclaimer on making this work. At Ellipsis, we tend to only work with companies with product market fit, because that makes sure that the work we're doing is going to be useful. So what this might look like then is that those 4 things in Maya's poll, you might just be doing those 4 things. And 4 things could run you very nicely up to a very medium-sized agency. Like Ellipsis is 5 people. We probably do about 4 things. For years, when I was freelancing, I did 2 things. I went to WordCamps, so I did like networking and speaking at WordCamps, and I had referrals, and that was like how I made my living when I started freelancing, and I didn't do anything else. The beauty of this system is it forces you to test and find out what works and focus on what works. So you might start doing paid search ads. You might try and sponsor WordCamps or whatever it is, and it's perfectly good to test that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But once you have the thing that works, you just do that and you don't do anything else. If you just want to take away like one thing from this evening's talk, it's that just do the thing that works, stop doing everything else. Again, linking that a bit to what works in practice. So for me, doing 2 channels was what I did for years. And when I started the agency, we still just did those things. This year, we've tried out content marketing, and we've been really clear about testing the channel to see if it works. If it does work, we're going to do loads of it. Stuff like WordCamp sponsorship can be a very tempting thing to do in the WordPress space. Doesn't necessarily always make sense. Like if you're GoDaddy and want to reach people who use WordPress products and services, great. If you're trying to reach like end users, people who might buy your services as a developer, maybe less of a good fit. So what does that look like? You might be going, I don't know what my channels are. How do I find them, etc. So a great way of doing this is to list out all of the customers you've worked with in the last 6 months, and then just listing like how they found you. This works from like very small to very large. If you're very large, you do that with analytics of some sort. When I was freelancing like years ago, I would literally just sit down with a piece of paper and list out, here are all the people who work with me. Here's where they came from. And then here's the work I've done. And I would categorize them. across the different areas, and that will tell you really quickly what works. And you probably find you've got 2 or 3 channels, 2 or 3 mechanisms that people are finding you through that are delivering the vast majority of the results. From there, you can start thinking. So that's a fairly simple bit. The skill is thinking about how those could be improved. If you are unsure about what that looks like, or if that doesn't resonate with you, perhaps you list out what your immediate competitors are doing, or what are some new ideas. If you do the same thing as everyone else, you will probably get the same results or worse. So I wouldn't focus too much on competitors, but that can be a useful benchmark. And maybe from that, you'll list out 3 to 6 possible channels. It's then really simple. We're just going to do a simple test. So for new channels, it's doing small tests to try them out. Existing channels, it's testing tweaks. So say we're going back here, you're doing some paid search ads. You're going to test it with, you found like a $100 credit on Google. And we're going to try that out for 2 months, 3 months, and see what happens. You're also going to set, though, a clear success criteria for that. So say we think that our hypothesis, we think that people are searching for relevant WordPress development services, and we think we can reach them. Perhaps like you are a London WordPress agency and you think that people value you being in London, and like that is a search term you could target. There are London WordPress agencies, and that would be a perfectly legitimate marketing strategy to do. It's about setting success criteria before you start, though. So like we're going to spend $200 on these search ads, and I would like to get 1 client within 3 months. If you get no clients, then that's information. If you get 10 clients, that's great. And then you can start triaging your channels from there. If you say do some content and you get no trackable leads through it, also great information. You've set success criteria before you start. So for Ellipsis, we said we're going to do this for 6 months. And we would be happy if we got 1 client, 1 lead per piece of content. And that was all we needed to go with. That's what that looks like. You want as few of those as possible. I can't stress that enough. As I said, I was working with 2 for years, and that is great. This keeps it super efficient because it means that the work you're doing is going to be super high impact because you know it works. And it means you're not, I'm sure you're doing client work, etc. Marketing may not be a thing that's that interesting. You don't want to spend too much time on it, etc. The opportunity cost of that time is very high. Having as few of these as possible makes your time really effective. Something that we hear from clients, especially developers who are not so keen on the marketing stuff, is that having your list of like 2 to 4 things to focus on is extremely useful because it means when opportunities come along, you can quickly triage them. You don't get distracted by stuff. So like someone emails you and you're like, we want to partner with you to do this. And you can go, does this fit with my marketing channel strategy? Yes or no? Yes or no, we won't do it. Those opportunities like can take up a lot of mental space. I know our clients like will find it difficult to triage those opportunities. You don't want to be mean to someone or whatever, and say no to things. You don't know if you're missing out on something. You've got fear of missing out. The marketing channel list, perfect for avoiding all of those problems. Before I go any further, does anyone want to query anything or comment on anything? I will take that as a no. One of the great skills of during the pandemic has been becoming very comfortable with awkward silences on Zoom calls. Okay. So.
You know, it's just while you are talking, you are starting to think something about your own cases, and looks like you are a bit away, and you want to put some kind of notes for yourself to remember some things like ideas. It's something not to share with community.
That's good. It's good to think about stuff. I think if the number one thing to take away is focusing on what works and doing more of that. Number two, that exercise of listing out where clients have come from in the last 6 months, who they are, how they found you, super, super useful for working out the stuff.
I got one from an airport.
Then that could be useful information. Maybe you should hang out more in airports. I find it's useful to have like a miscellaneous tab for like unexplained clients. I did this a couple of years ago. I remember the results for one time were for content work that we were doing. So one specific service line, the miscellaneous tab was huge. And that told me we were doing a terrible job of explaining that on the website, of running that through our regular sales funnel, etc. That was really useful information. So like random events are actually quite useful as well. All right, I will continue talking about maximization, some examples. We can talk about any questions. So the fun part is doing as much of this as you can once you have the stuff that works. So you've figured out that paid search ads are doing a great job. It is then a case of not doing anything else on this list until you have done as many paid search ads as you possibly can. It is so easy to get distracted by new shiny things when you've just figured out what actually moves the needle is this really boring thing that you just got to do loads of. You found out that whatever it is, going to some like local business networking event is great for you. Instead of looking for like different types of networking events, go to that same thing over and over again. This is where like the big efficiency gains from this come from. You only want to turn your attention to new stuff, which I know is exciting, when your existing channels become full. So like you've maxed out your ad spend, and spending more is not going to help, or doing more optimization is not going to help. I'm not an ads expert. You might be able to tell. Like whatever it is, you're getting the most from your ads as possible. There's nothing more you can do there. Or it's becoming ineffective. Perhaps you've been like a first mover on getting clients off of airports, and now like all of your competitors are hanging out in airports. The channel has become crowded and it's become ineffective. And it's just a case of repeat. Think of it as like a canal, a river, and you want to get the water flowing as high as possible. If you go over the top, though, it's going to flood, and you're not going to get any better flow through it. That's when the channel's full, like peak flow, and that's when you're going to turn your attention to new stuff. Good example here of this. So we do content marketing for our clients. We focus on SEO for that. It was going well. Great channel. But we were looking for more opportunities to increase the effectiveness. So we started looking at the on-page conversion rate for that. And we implemented a bunch of stuff, and we like doubled the conversion rate for the client from their content. We rolled it out across other clients. Everyone was very happy, as you would be. But that kind of thing happened from taking what was working and then trying to work out how to get the most out of it. That was we call them call to action boxes. For other clients who have WordPress plugins, like we were looking at the freemium conversion rate. Is if you have a plugin, you focus on how many active users you have, etc. How many people are coming to your website. Turns out there's a lot you can do to move the conversion rate from those free users. Those are really great examples of what that looks like to make those more effective. and often just stopping to think about this stuff for a minute, which, like, if we're honest with ourselves, we sometimes rarely do. Something to think about stuff is so useful for increasing effectiveness. We all have lots of creative ideas, trying stuff out, figuring out what can we need. Often, like, just so useful. Just a nice quote from a client about like how they got to the promised land. So after they focused on their channels, so Jack runs a plugin called WP Fusion, which connects like marketing automation software to WordPress. Jack says, I have better sense of my target audience, and my website better communicates my product value. I also have some actionable steps I can take to increase organic search traffic, and I've stopped wasting time and money on some marketing channels that were underperforming. So you can see that takes up like a quarter of the space, is that final point I was talking about earlier of just, here's some stuff not to do. So Jack stopped wasting time and money on marketing channels that are underperforming. He's a developer, doesn't want to spend more time on marketing than he has to. That's a great win from applying this philosophy. Another nice example, this is EnviroGallery, which is like a gallery plugin. The guy who runs it, Nathan Singh, did an interview with theplugineconomy.com. He talks about how his plugin runs. EnviroGallery has revenue of over $1 million. That number was disclosed when the plugin was sold a couple of years ago. So Nathan says, our continued success has been a healthy mix of Facebook retargeting, laser-focused content marketing, industry affiliate relationships, and listening to our customers by delivering updates that mattered to them. So that's a multi-million-dollar plugin, and they've actually got 3 channels. Great example of what a disciplined, focused marketing channel strategy looks like. Facebook retargeting ads, content marketing, affiliates. That's all there is to it. That's a product example rather than a service example, but the same thing, the same like rules apply. So I'm reaching the end. I've been approximately 15 minutes. Ideal timing. What are your channels? So
it's fine.
What are you currently doing? Is it working? What could you be doing? Test it. Only do the stuff that works. If you want to like screenshot that, write it down. That's it. What I love about this is it's not complicated, but it works across small businesses, enterprise businesses. Everyone, this makes sense. So if we head back to our graphic of before and after, we've now gone from everything's awful to everything's fine. We're not sure where customers are coming from. Effectively focus on what works, ignore what doesn't. Ad hoc marketing, clear marketing plan. We're now at the promised land. Let's have a chat about it. I can answer any questions. This is my link of stuff. That's my newsletter, which you may want to get. Yeah, and let's answer any questions.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Before everyone start asking their questions, I really enjoyed this summary of what to do and how to do. I think this is a very comprehensive methodology that you presented, in actually simplified it to really understand what to do and not to do. And now I will leave the floor to everyone else to ask their questions. I'll have a couple of questions that I would be interested in, but let me first hear what our attendees think about it. What do you guys think?
You know, actually, it's difficult to make some kind of questions because in my point, I just need go and do it. It's my problem.
That's good.
But I want to start with content and of course SEO optimization. I assume it's unavoidable, but my problem with clients is that they want this dummy SEO text because they are cheap on websites, and I'm just sick of it.
Okay, so what's the ideal outcome?
Idea is because they are cheap. you know, you can buy this from us because etc. etc. Then again buy this from us and again, and one paragraph later again. Either there are better way to do such things. I assume there are supposed to be.
So, to be honest, I think that sounds like a positioning question rather than a marketing channel question. So it could be interesting to have a look at what you're telling people on your website and see how customers might come to the conclusion that they can come to you and ask for stuff cheaply. If you wanted to look through the marketing channel stuff, then if you've got some clients who are like dream clients, better fit clients, perhaps you split out the channels stuff just for them. So you might find that like your high value clients come to you through these 4 methods, your low value clients come to you from these 2 methods. Perhaps then you want to stop doing the 2 that give you low value clients. That could be an interesting exercise to do. So as well as just listing out where people have come from, list out the project value, and if you might then find some trends amongst the people you really want to work with.
That's really interesting. I want to ask you about the constant struggle that there is for positioning, finding the right clients, not only the clients, but the right ones for you to feel accomplished. And nowadays, somehow, I mean, the whole economy has gone digital, and all of a sudden the need for such services, WordPress services in general, have increased. But still, you can see that some agencies are struggling, that some freelancers are not able to find a job. So how do you think, like, is there a template or like something that you can propose to people and explain why they're struggling when there seems to be the demand? It's obvious.
So I guess I have like opinions on that. I don't want to be too prescriptive because I like don't have all the answers. What has worked for me and for us is being really clear on our positioning. If you want like a thing to do, if that's like your problem, I would highly recommend a book called Win Without Pitching by Blair Enns. It's on Amazon, I think. In that, he talks about, well, how you win without pitching, how you avoid a competitive process from your clients. So if there is demand for, we have seen increased demand for WordPress services like search. We did some research earlier in the year, like search for WordPress terms is up between 20 and 50% this year, which is huge. Those customers have different needs. And if you are able to serve those needs in a way that 20, 50 other people can also serve those needs, then that's very tricky. You put you in a difficult position. You're in a competitive pitch process, and the client can turn around and say, I can get this cheaper elsewhere. If you're able to work out how to add some added value, or be an expert in a specific way, that becomes much more interesting. So like, yeah, I don't claim to have all the answers, but for us, being like experts in WordPress plus marketing clearly differentiates us from marketing agencies who struggle to understand what works in WordPress. If you are a small agency, a freelancer, like I make WordPress websites, great, but I make WordPress websites and I have specific expertise in like these types of things, better. If you can go further and mix types of value in a way that they can't get anywhere else, ideal. So like 10 years ago, like the WordPress agency space was just like, we are a WordPress agency, and that was a sufficient differentiator. And if you look at the biggest agencies like 10up, Human Made, like 10 years ago, their positioning was literally just, we do WordPress and that's all that we do, and that is rare and valuable. Nowadays, those agencies have much more sophisticated positioning, and you have like all sorts of WordPress agencies serving different sections of the market. You might have like, you might know how like scalable WordPress works, and that's your thing. Super fast WordPress, like WordPress, secure WordPress for financial services, whatever it is. I think if you can, again, like for us, what has worked is mixing rare and valuable skills in a way that customers can't get elsewhere, avoids a competitive pitch. It means you can charge more. It means you can like tell your clients what to do. The client says like, I want this thing because it's cheap. You can push back and say, we're the experts here. You actually need this, and it's going to cost this, etc. Life just looks a lot better, in my opinion, if you're able to kind of get out of that competitive rut. It's good that like WordPress development services.
Well, it seems that we lost him again, but as per the previous note, he'll probably come back. There he is. Hi, Alex.
Sorry, my Zoom crashed again. I was mid-flow. It's good that like it's a good thing for the WordPress economy that WordPress services are more competitive. But that means I think it's more important now than ever to clearly differentiate what you do, why that's important, and communicate that to customers.
Correct. I agree 100%. Thank you very much. Anyone else has a question, perhaps thinking of opening such similar business or thinking about any type of WordPress business?
You know, I'm just thinking that the same way it's right way for me also, because I'm thinking about this sometimes, like to make some niche for myself, to make an effort in some kind of particular area, not in the whole things. Like I was thinking if I need to study LearnDash, for instance, or not, because I have potential clients in this area. But really, you cannot make everything fine. It will take a lot of time. So I assume I need to make some kind of direction for myself and more a targeted audience, and from this point I will be able to figure out what content I need, etc.
I think
and also other actions.
I think having a look at win without pitching could be really useful. That was
Can
like,
you post it in the chat how it's exactly called?
Yeah. I will find
Alex, maybe you can post everything in the chat again, or you know.
Sure.
From the beginning, just the copy paste what we had.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Ah, that's great. I also have another question, but when you finish.
This is the Amazon.com link. That's a Kindle version somewhere. Did I copy and paste my intro message earlier? I did. There we go. And here's my slides.
This Audible book from $6.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So before we move to anything else, I wanted to ask you, Alex, what's your opinion of referrals? Because I've seen a very interesting comment on LinkedIn on the poll that referrals are like something.
Yeah, so like the thing I was told when I started my agency was that like mature agencies can get 30% of their business from referrals, and that can be true. And as I said, like for for the first couple of years, I was doing this full time. Referrals were like half of my marketing strategy for channels. So they're really powerful. When you start pushing it through the marketing channel philosophy, though, you're going, let me just reshare my screen. So like, what is the, we got that? Yeah. So what does running this process look like for something like referrals? So you might try and look at what's already working and see that referrals are there. How could these be improved? That becomes a really tricky one for referrals because you are relying on a third party to take an action of recommending you. You can do a couple of things, and like this will vary. Your mileage may vary on these depending on like what your space is. So you might want to incentivize referrals. That would be a great one to do. So you're trying to work out how to get more referrals. You figure that like paying a 5% fee on new clients is going to do the trick. That is a very common thing to do in the UK. And like people expect a fee if you refer them stuff. Controversially, like for Ellipsis, we don't pay a referral fee because we've set out to be so good that people will refer us anyway. So like in terms of maximizing stuff, it's quite a tricky one. Like how do you become better then at what you do so that people are more happy, so that they're more likely to refer you? That was a question that like we workshopped and went through. How could they be improved? Ask for more referrals. So like one of my KPI metrics is how many referrals have I asked for this month? And I have to ask for them. And just for me, setting that target was very useful because I find it quite uncomfortable asking people for referrals. Like in the back of my mind, it's always like, is this the right stage of the project? Is the client happy? Who are they going to refer us? Do our clients know anyone who would be useful, etc.? Those are all questions that I was asking, and kind of that mental block wasn't really real. So setting out targets is very useful. And then, yeah, it's a case of maximizing them. So doing that exercise for you would be very interesting. That's what we did. I set up, so because I was so awkward about asking for referrals, like I set up some automation to ask people for a referral at the end of a project. Great, did the trick. That kind of stuff. That's what workshopping that looks like. That would, if you did that, that would probably take you like half a day to actually think about it deeply. Those are some good ideas, and then you can test it and see what happens. So like one of the automation things I did was tell people that we really like referrals at the start of a project. That was we tested that. It was very ineffective because we had not provided any value at that point, which is pretty obvious, but I figured that like kind of priming people to think about referrals might be helpful, but we tested it. It didn't work. We scrapped it. Great example of this in action.
Wow, thank you very much. I really liked what you explained because I was thinking in like, is this an obligatory like to take the step towards payment or no? So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Do you guys have any other questions for Alex? No? All right. So would you like me to play the game? Are you interested in playing the game tonight?
Let's do it.
Oh, let's do it. Predrag, please play. Tiana also. Lokesh. Louis. Hi, Louis. Nice to see you. Very good. I'll just share my screen. Yeah, but not that one.
We missed Chris somehow.
Now's a big chance. So today's winner will also, I'll just stop recording and I will thank everyone who will be watching perhaps this at some point after this video will be published. Thank you, Alex. We will continue with our fun time, and we see you in our next meetups.